Hello, and welcome to Everybody Dice podcast number 59, I believe we're on, where today we are going to be talking about which games are you most looking forward to playing now things are starting to open up here in the UK anyway. I am Steve, and today I am joined by...
I'm just licking a dice. I'm Daryl.
How does it taste?
To be honest with you, it's like it's really smooth. It tastes like Vegas. Is how I imagine Vegas would taste. Um,
The place, not Johnny Vegas, because I imagine that would be...
oh yeah, I imagine that'd be really like I don't know, like I don't know, like just like a meat pie, I guess, like a meat pie and ale maybe. Like, um, wow, yeah, I don't even know where yeah, let's beef crisps, beef Monster Munch,
Yes,
and
yes.
like just all those kind of like knickknacks, those kind of like flavors, all bundled into one kind of like hybrid of a human being.
A whole
That's
host
where I'm going.
a whole host of crisp flavors just
But
melded
like all
into one.
mainly beef, all mainly like beef like flavored crisps.
I mean, what flavour were you thinking of with the knickknacks? Though I know that were you going to go scampi and lemon?
Yeah, I think I would. I think I would. Like nice and spicy seems like a like an obvious choice, and rib and saucy. But I feel like I'd definitely go scampi and lemon with him.
I feel like we're veering towards pub food with him. Is basically what we're saying. He would taste
Yeah, I
like
imagine it's every snack you could buy in a pub would be what he would taste like.
just all the pork scratchings and
Yeah. Oh man, the dude would be like so salty, like way saltier than Gammon, I reckon. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? Like, I genuinely think you get gout from licking him.
imagine if Johnny Vegas was watching this. Just
Oh, do you know what? Johnny Vegas, hit me up. I'll lick you. I don't care. As soon as it's over, I'll lick you, and we'll live taste test you. I don't care.
give me gout.
Give me gout. Just like downing water afterwards, like oh.
Oh boy. Is that what this podcast has become? We're just going to get people on here and we're just going to lick them. That's very COVID safe, isn't it? We're not out of the woods yet.
After,
Once we're
after.
safe.
In a couple of years' time, when everyone can lick each other and taste them, we'll go with I'll taste celebrities. That can be my new segment. You can do this whole thing where I'm like, it's basically like Dom Jolly. I'm out live reporting while you guys are chatting, and it's just like, okay, we're gonna go live to Darren now. It's like me just running up to celebrities, just go, Dame Helen Mirren, please, live for Everybody Does channel. Just a quick one. Yeah, Rich T.
I would love to make an intro for that section on every podcast. Have you ever seen uh Tim and Eric's awesome show Great Job?
No, I think you've said about this before. I really need to try and watch some stuff like this.
Like the intro to that, there's a lot of tongue in it. And I just imagine doing something like that, like a side on photograph of your face with just like the opening mouth and then a long tongue just coming out
Like a Gene
and just
Simmons
touching just a
type
yeah
stuff.
like that kind of thing and just touching a variation of different things. This is great. Great podcaster content here.
Yeah, it's pro content. Like this is why people love it. Like it's not all about board games. It's about flavors of the world.
Yeah, it
I
certainly
mean,
is.
prior to
We've covered
this,
dice today, so
yeah. I'm comparing like a Las Vegas dice from a casino that no longer exists. So it's rare. That's like a hamburger that's been sealed for like 30 years. Is it still good?
mm,
And then I did some like Warhammer dice off camera just as a comparison. So I've actually licked dice 3 times today. Um,
I've got a whole bag for you to try here sometime. So
oh, it's pick and
like
mix.
yeah, we'll get something
Oh,
sometime. Just like all the different colours,
oh, oh.
just an extra something to look forward to at some
Do
point.
you know what? I'd like to know if my palate was that like sensitive that I could guess the color and potentially like. Do you know what I mean? You like I wear like a mask and you just like drop a dice on my mouth. I imagine I'd roll it around a little bit and be able to tell the sides of it. So I could imagine I could tell what kind of dice it was, and then I think I'd be like green, and you'd be like, it's green. And oh, it tasted green.
I mean, the thing is, like, blind taste tests are a thing on YouTube, so we'll
Maybe you
be
hit a niche.
maybe.
I reckon I get so much poison. Like, I reckon I'd get poisoned so hard. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I can taste this weird taste in my mouth now, and I feel like I'm gonna regret that in the morning.
I mean, there's always the worry that if we disinfect the dice, all you're going to be able to taste is the disinfectant.
So this is the problem. Maybe disinfect the dice, bag it, seal it, put it in the fridge, and then a week or two later, then I'll come to it. So it's like a fresh sample.
Isn't it the other way round? Like you're meant to microwave stuff in order to sterilize it.
Yeah, but like the problem is it's plastic, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like,
that's exactly
ooh,
the thought I was
I
thinking.
tell you
But
what, ultrasonic cleaning. You know, they're like the little machines you can get to do jewelry.
yeah,
Bang on with that. That'd be perfect. It'll ultrasonic clean it. It won't damage it. I'll put it in my mouth.
Okay. Anyway, that's enough of that. You've come here for board game content,
That
which
was board game
we've
content.
kind of offered, but I don't think it's the board game content you were expecting. So how about we get on to something a bit more standard? What have we been playing? Okay, so I'll start things off for what we've been playing. I've been playing a bit of Mansions of Madness, which I don't think you've played. I think Ian's played it, but
Is that the app-based one?
yeah. So
Oh, I
you've
haven't,
got
I haven't.
you've got Journey Through Middle Earth, which was kind of like
Yes, I have. Yeah.
it was kind of the Lord of the Rings based version of this, which was kind of like the original one. Obviously, it's all based in H.P. Lovecraft, like everything seems to be these days. Um, but this is an absolute classic. You know from playing Journey Through Middle Earth that you need to learn very few rules for these games. Literally, the app does almost everything for you. Literally, all you really have to do is do your setup, which is just arranging all the tokens, all the card decks, and stuff like that. And then
That's lengthy.
yeah, it is a bit lengthy, but oh, do you know what? I've
What?
been using like things like this recently, just to put all tokens in and separate them out and stuff. It surprisingly makes things a hell of a lot easier when you're like dividing up like all your tokens and stuff like that for games. Just having a couple of like little pots nearby just to empty it into,
Yeah, yeah.
because literally when you're done with the game as well and you're packing away, you just done, and it keeps everything nice and separated throughout. It's been working really well.
Good idea.
Anyway, Mansions of Madness.
Project.
Yeah, yeah, but what it does is you select a scenario at the beginning of the game, you choose your characters, and then the app even guides you through what starting equipment you get. So it will give you an inventory of stuff, and you have to divide it between the characters at the beginning of the game. Then your adventure begins. And it's a simple case of you're clicking on things on there and you're having to resolve tests by rolling dice and stuff like that. And you often have to input your results into it. And you just play yourself through a bit of a nice story. I played through the first scenario that you get in there just because playing this like for the first time in a while, I wanted to just familiarize myself with everything again. So I played Cycle of Eternity, which is kind of like your default one. So comparing this immediately to Journey Through Middle Earth, Journey Through Middle Earth is a campaign that you play through. It's not really scenario based, is it?
No, I think you can play like some smaller scenarios, but I don't think you get them sort of like later on or after you've played them.
Yeah.
Um,
Whereas
Yeah.
like with Mansions of Madness, it's just like a single scenario that you play through. Although there is a scenario in it that is 6 hours long. And divided into three different, I won't say three different play sessions, but at 2 points in the story, it will just say, take down your map and start again and start on this space, and then you kind of like build out another map and stuff. We've played through that one before, actually, and it's really cool. Really, really neat scenario. But either way, I played through Cycle of Eternity, and I won't spoil too much for it, but the basic outline of it is that you get a call from someone. You've basically been investigating someone, and you get a call from his butler saying he's gone missing, and he thinks someone's taken him. So you head over to the mansion, and you bump into the butler fairly quickly, and stuff is going down, and you basically have to find the owner of this mansion. It was interesting because there's a puzzle in it that if you don't solve very quickly, bad stuff happens. So I was able to plan ahead a little bit and make sure I had multiple people in a space so that if the puzzle was failed first time, I had other people then there to be able to complete the puzzle. It is genuinely possible in the first scenario in the game, if you aren't aware of that and you fail the puzzle and it was your last turn, something bad will happen. Um, there's
Jesus.
there's a lot
Right.
of there's a lot of things like that in this game where sometimes your actions have consequences. Like if you click on a whole bunch of stuff, like I know I've had events before where there's been like there's a pot on a shelf. Do you want to have a look in it? And if you do, you end up dropping it and smashing it, and then a ghost turns up. I've had that happen in a scenario before. I don't know whether that was a random event though, that just gets added in, because the game will do this to you. You can play the same scenario multiple times and different stuff will happen. Like
That's pretty good.
in the first scenario, I've had it before where the mansion has been set on fire all of a sudden, and you're desperately trying to put out the fire whilst
Yeah, yeah.
investigating, but it doesn't happen every time. Sometimes it will start being enveloped in darkness, and darkness is an effect that when that happens, you can't boost your skill checks by. So, one of the mechanics of the game is when you make a dice roll, you've got success face, which is kind of like if you know what an elder sign is from playing these games, it's one of those. A blank face is a failure, and magnifying glass is if you have any clue tokens, which you can get by investigating certain things, you can spend that in order to turn it into a success.
Right.
So they're your three dice faces that you can get by rolling them, and you're going to be tested on various things throughout the adventure. So if you decide to rifle through a cabinet or something like that, it might ask you to make an observation test. In which case, you look on your character card. If you've got an observation skill of 4, it means you roll 4 dice, and it will either ask you to roll so many successes on the dice, or it will ask you to input the number of successes you've got. So you don't know, even after you've spent all your clue tokens and stuff like that to turn things into successes, you don't exactly know whether you're going to pass it or not. But
So, so am I right in thinking that all checks on this are dice related as opposed to journeys where they're all card based?
yes, exactly.
Okay. So there is quite a big difference in sort of mechanics wise then on that one.
Yeah, there is. But a lot of your checks in, I seem to remember, Journeys Through Middle Earth is far more kind of action combat based affair where
Yeah, it was all kind of like agility to try and climb up stuff, and if you don't, you fall down. And uh, there was search. Do you know what? I started playing it again during like the previous lockdowns on my own, just to kind of go through it because I realised actually we never really. Everyone I've started it with, I've never gone past like say the first scenario or first chapter. So I was like, I'm gonna keep going and keep going, and I'm at. Actually, I think I've got to the point where me and you got to where we had to like infiltrate to fight a boss maybe, and I think we stopped there.
yeah,
So I know there's that, which is like an arena fight, and I think I did that on my end. But yeah, the checks and the like skill checks and stuff like that, they are very much more like combat related or kind of yeah. There are some skills I think like searching, and I think there was like some vision based stuff. Check to see if you can see stuff. Like an investigate, I guess, or like vision quest. But most of it, yeah, because it's Lord of the Rings, it's a lot of it's like hacking, slashing, combat, dodging, quick time events, which yeah, it's kind of cool.
yeah. I mean, Mansions of Madness is more of an investigation.
Mm.
You're searching for clues, and there are sometimes puzzles that you have to solve, which will actually be in the form of things like either sliding puzzles and things of that nature. So sometimes you might have something that you have to think about a little bit, and usually the amount of turns you get at each puzzle is determined by a certain stat on your character card. So it'll be different for every player. Some players might be better at doing puzzles than other people. But one of the things that so unlike Journeys through Middle Earth, where you're having to fight a lot of stuff, like I say, very combat based. In this, you'll be doing a lot of running away and evasion checks and stuff like that to run away
Makes
from
sense.
monsters. There's a lot of horror checks, and if you fail too many of them and take too much mental damage, typical HP Lovecraft game fare, you can go insane. And if you go insane, it can sometimes give you a secret objective that you have to obtain. Sometimes you might not even win the game with everyone else. Sometimes you might win the game on your own. There is a very, very infamous insanity event that can happen in Mansions of Madness, which is kind of it's saying if you're holding a bladed weapon and end your turn on a space with only
Jesus,
one
I can see
other
where this is going.
investigator, you win the
Yeah.
game at that
Wow,
point.
Jesus.
So yeah, there's that. A lot of the other insanity effects will do something like you win the game if you hold this many items at the end of it, or something like that. So a lot of them are more when you complete your mission, you'll win if you've also achieved such and such. So it usually penalizes you by giving you extra effects to be able to achieve over the course of the game. So Cycle of Eternity was interesting because I kind of already knew the scenario, so I succeeded barely. I think I ended up with 2 insane investigators, and 1 was wounded at the time. The idea being that if you go insane, if you would lose all your sanity a second time, then you're done and the game's over. Likewise with wounds, if you take too many wounds one time, you become wounded. I've probably worded that really badly there, but
Well, yeah, maybe.
when you
I don't know.
when you take a wound card, you basically can't take a move action twice. It's worth noting at this point that you've got a selection of actions you can take, like move, investigate. You can push other investigators if you need to move them out of the way of something fairly sharpish.
Cool.
Yeah, so you've got a number of things that you can do on your turn, but the main things you're probably going to be doing is moving and investigating are probably the 2 main actions you're going to take. And once you're wounded, you can't take the move action twice in one turn, so it makes it really hard to start really putting distance between yourself and whatever nasties are chasing you.
Oh, that's actually that'd be quite. Well, not I was gonna say upsetting, but that'd be actually quite annoying.
Yeah, but the second scenario that I decided to attempt was Escape from Innsmouth, and I
Okay.
feel like this really wasn't designed if you were playing it one player. So what happens is when you're playing solo, you get to take 2 investigators and you play through as both of them. Usually you'd only have one character and everyone would play as them. Generally, in these games, it's advised that you move around as a group and don't split up too much, mostly because if one person gets in trouble and they die, the entire game is up. There's no carrying on after one person is eliminated from the game. You get one more turn after a player has been eliminated to be able to complete your investigation. And this scenario involved an enemy called a riot. And a riot is a collection of 3 figures placed on one standee. And the game flat out tells you if you collide with them, evade. It actually tells you at the beginning because you're not going to beat the riot, basically. Because the idea is it's a converging mass of people that are gathering together and trying to hunt you down. And your task for this scenario is escape. And I was in the first game I played, I got in a very, very desperate situation where one of my characters, fairly early into the scenario, like, no, I wasn't very far into it at all, they had a bit of a run of bad luck and they were pretty beat up. So I had to get away from the monsters that kind of encompass the space. So I had to use an item which said, okay, if you use this item, you will turn all of your magnifying glasses in your result that you've rolled into successes, and I needed to get away from this monster. But the caveat was you will become mesmerized, which mesmerized is you draw a card and you flip it, and it gives you an action that you have to take at the end of your turn that you have to do.
Right. Okay.
As an additional thing, you still get to take your turn as normal. And I managed to evade this monster and move them out of the way. And then when I flipped it, the mesmerize effect was it basically ran the character right into the riot, which just was game over by that point. Because what the riot does is it does move in almost like a circular pattern around the board, round this route. But if you get caught in it, the riot drags you with them. So it's just doing constant damage to this person
Yeah,
unless they
yeah.
manage to get off the space. So I had to drag over another one of my characters to try and get them out of that situation, and then they started having poor luck as well, and it became a real mess, and it didn't last very long. So I played the scenario again, and I took my time this time. I tried to keep them together. I tried to take my time, and then it turned out that there was a time limit on the thing, and I failed it because I took too long. And
Jesus.
I can't see how you can do it with just two investigators because you 100% have to split people up because in order to find a way off the island and you also have an investigation that you have to try and complete before you leave, you have to split that party, but you cannot split so that there's only one person in each party, put it that way. Because,
Yeah, yeah.
like I said, if someone happens to get caught up into that riot, they need help to get them out of there. So it's a really fine balance that you have to take, and I think I'm going to skip that one from now on because it was probably designed to be played with at least three, maybe even four people, I think.
Right. Okay.
But yeah,
More of a group thing.
I would still massively recommend this game. I'm not kidding. This is still in my top five games. When we've done our lists before, I've always included this in there. It's an amazing game. If anything, I would say the one drawback is that sometimes you can invest a lot of time into it and things can go wrong very quickly and you can fail very quickly. So you have to go into it in the mindset of we're just going to have fun with this. We'll see how far we can get. We know things might go wrong beyond our control and we may end up losing. I feel like that kind of comes as part and part in HP Lovecraft games. I mean, you've played enough of the Arkham Horror card game to know that sometimes things go downhill
Yeah.
really, really quickly, and
So
you just
it's
have to
funny you
suck it
say
up.
that.
Yeah,
I've been. I like the game. I like the concept of it. I like. I'm one of those people that I've never really been a fan of. Like winning is winning. I don't care. You win, fine. I'm not one of those people. But I enjoy like the mechanics of a game, or I enjoy just having fun with the game. And if I win, I win. Whereas with Arkham Horror, I find that it's not really a winning scenario. It's just like, can I get through this? And then you kind of like, it's nice to kind of have a game that it doesn't necessarily. I mean, yes, if you win, you are rewarded with something that will help you in the next scenario. But if you lose, it's not always an instant failure lose type situation. You kind of carry on with like something that makes it worse, which again then adds to the story. So like I know that the one I've been playing is the Forgotten Age one. There's so much stuff that I probably have missed and I will have missed 100% because of the things I've done in previous scenarios. And I like the fact that I've created a story that's not it's not going well for me.
yeah,
And I know when I get to the end, I'm not gonna well, even if you can defeat the big bad, I'm not going to be able to do that. I think I'm going to be struggling and potentially I'll lost, you know. So I Helen, on the other hand, hates it.
okay,
She likes she likes the concept of it in a way that she likes the kind of horror aspect, which is like it's kind of interesting, but she hates losing.
yeah,
So she hates going into the game knowing full well that we're scraping by. But for me, that's like, oh, it's okay because like, all right, we've lost health, we've lost trauma, we've lost mental health, whatever. It's going to be difficult, but the fun is that we're now struggling, and it's like, well, that's not fun. And there's been a few scenarios like when I played the original campaign through with her, and she was like, I just don't like it, like, but she couldn't figure out that at the end she basically sacrificed Lita Chandler and won.
yeah.
But she didn't see that as a win. I was like instructing her. I was like, just sacrifice the bitch. Just do it. And she was like, but what? Why? And I was like, just do it. You got 3 turns. I think no 4 because she had what's his name? Bloody the guy for the Green Guardian, the Green Rogue
Oh,
set.
I haven't played with that one.
Leah DeLuca. Leah DeLuca gives you like an extra turn. She had 4 turns instead of 3, and I set it up for her. Like I was just like, look, all you got to do is get to that place, evade that one, do this, and burn her. And it was like, and she did. And then she just went, I'm like, we've won. Like we've got the ultimate scenario. And she was just like, well, the one I liked. And she was just like, I don't really, it was all right, but like it was just because we didn't win. We like people had died, people along the way, the house had burned, you know. Like, but I was like, that's really cool. Like this woman was a nutter. She was in our house. She let her burn the house down. We then sacrificed her to the big bad, and I thought that was a really cool concept. But I think for her, the narrative isn't really the narrative we're creating for that game. I don't think she finds that as so. I feel like she's not one of those people that would enjoy this as well.
Yeah.
Because there's not an ultimate. She likes playing games where there is a winner or you can possibly win. She doesn't like games where it's like ambiguous and the story's more of an element.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we differ a little bit. I love. See, I haven't got Manchester Madness, and last time you went on about it, I nearly bought it. My concern was because it's quite a higher priced game. I didn't want to play it on my own like I have been with Lord of the Rings because Helen really likes Lord of the Rings, so I assumed I'd put her in with that and she'd love it. She couldn't really. I mean, you know, like you were saying, how the app does everything, and it does a hell of a lot of the work. Maybe I'll give it another go with her, but she just the whole card thing she couldn't really get, like the whole swapping cards for like giving them in as skill checks and stuff like that. She didn't really get that, and even though she absolutely adores Lord of the Rings and the theme should be perfect for her. No, so like I kind of held off this one, and I was curious. Do you have? I'm on our favorite in Toyment. Do you have any of the expansions? Like, would you say that the expansions? Okay, because there's varying prices of the expansions. Are they worth? Because at the moment, Lord of the Rings only has 2 like mini packs and then 1 big pack with more figures. Would you say that with this, the expansions increase the gameplay value like incredibly? Because there are 1 or 2 one is like say 50, 60 retail, which feels to me like it's a brand new game. Whereas,
okay, so the way I would put it with that is, you will find that when you buy the game, you only have access to, I think it's 5 scenarios or something like that out of 22. Each expansion unlocks more scenarios, but that's not all you're getting. All of the bits that you get inside the box as well, you add it to your collection, a bit like you do with Arkham Horror in some of the apps and stuff you get for your card collections and stuff like that. And once you've done that, the game will then integrate areas of that expansion that you've got into all of the scenarios. So all of a sudden there's things that can start happening. It will make use of other cards and equipment and stuff like that in the scenarios that the old scenarios that you will have played before. So it can really change up a lot of your scenarios. I only have one. I have one of the cheaper ones. I think it was called Beyond the Threshold. I think it's the one I've got.
I think that's the one that. So there's a couple like about 26 to 30 quid, and there's a couple that are like really heavy 35s. Sorry, 50s and 60s. And I was just wondering like what that. But in a way, I guess the higher price does make it kind of like you say. It's kind of interesting that it's bringing more replay value to the original. So even if you had played the original box set to death, buying like say a 50 quid one might bring in like new flavors for new people, and you could play it with the new people and they wouldn't know so much, and you would be experiencing it for the first time again, which is kind of nice.
So speaking on what I know about the expansions, the most recent one, I think it was called Path of the Serpent or something like that. It takes you all of a sudden on an adventure into a jungle, and there's like a massive snake miniature in it and stuff like that. So it takes you away from the idea of being inside a mansion and gives you something brand new to explore. I think the one that they say is the best one to get was, oh man, I've forgotten the name of it now, but it like opened up like trains and boats and
Horrific Journeys.
Horrific Journeys, that's the one. So all of a sudden you're isolated on a train, for example.
That's cool.
And there's scenarios where you don't have the option of escaping because you're trapped in the middle of
Yeah, on a
travel.
train.
I think there might even be a scenario on a boat as well, or something like
That's
that.
cool.
So it does change things up a fair bit. And like I say, these elements that get added in these games all get brought over. Like I did have one of the miniatures you got in Beyond the Threshold was a monster called a Thrall,
Yeah, yeah.
and that turned up in the Escape from Innsmouth scenario that I was playing, which is not part of that. It is worth noting as well that you can actually buy just scenarios. There's a handful of them that you spend about £3 on or something like that. It just adds a new scenario for you to be able to play without having to go out and buy an expansion. So if you were just flicking through it one day through the app and thinking, I need a new scenario to play, oh, I'll just spend a couple of quid on this one. I'll buy this and I'll give this one a try. You do have a couple of extra things like that. I think the way I will close Mansions of Madness and move on to our next thing, in an attempt to try and sell it, possibly, is that with Arkham Horror, one of the things you have with that, if you are one of these people that are kind of put off by these extra hard games where you have to expect failure, Arkham Horror is one of those things where you can play through a campaign, put in tons of hours, and then fail or
Yeah, yeah.
have an unfulfilling ending. With Mansions of Madness, they are short scenarios. So in other words, you'll only put in a couple of hours at a time or something like that. If you fail, hey, we'll just try again another day, kind of thing. It's like say they're a lot shorter. You, with the exception of the 6 hour one where you have to play through a number of different maps. That one I can imagine if you got so far through the
Yeah.
second scenario and then failed, that would be really like I can see how that
Super
could
annoying.
put people off. But generally you don't quite have that same thing that you had with Arkham Horror, and it's a simpler system than Journey Through Middle Earth as well. Like you said, if you're struggling with like the card-based systems and stuff like that, this one's just simple dice rolls, and that's it. And literally the only other thing apart from your equipment cards that give you extra abilities, you're just using clue tokens to turn some of your magnifying glasses into successes and stuff like that. So that's how I would sell Mansions of Madness, to be honest, if someone isn't really into their super hard games, because it doesn't feel like you're losing very much having failed something, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, I'll move on now because we're moving on to the section of the podcast where I talk about games I've played with my parents. So
Hey.
my mum had to go in for an operation recently, so we had to isolate for 3 days. Could not leave the house at all. So I was originally going to play several games with my
Hold on a
parents.
second. Hold on. This sounds right. And now I'm going to just jump in because hold on. I'm channeling Ian here.
Sure.
You basically forced your parents to play board games against their will.
They asked to play board games, but they originally asked to play a number of board games, but only really found they had time for one in the end.
Fair enough. Wow.
So
See, this is good.
I had plans on playing Flamme Rouge with them because that's one
Oh,
of
that
my
was so good.
favourite games of all time, but we
Course.
didn't get time for it. I wanted to try Survive Escape from Atlantis as well.
Yeah,
But the
yeah.
game we eventually ended up playing was Baron Park, which I've
Hey.
had for a while and have not had a chance to play. This actually might become relevant later in the podcast as well. But either way, Baron Park is amazing. This is such a cool family weight game. Essentially, you're trying to build your own bear park, funnily enough. And what you're doing is you're using a number of Tetris style pieces to basically place onto your park in order to try and score the most points because getting in early on certain enclosures score you more points. Taking the really, really exclusive orange pieces, I will say for the time being, getting to them first is going to score you a lot more points, but also entirely filling a section of your park is going to enable you to place a bear statue on there. They're going to decrease in value over the course of the game. So it's very much a game where you've got this spatial puzzle where you're placing pieces in and trying to fit them in the best way you can, and trying to prioritize which bits you want to follow. Like, what's going to be your best strategy for right now? What, like, at the beginning, it'll be getting bear statues on your board because they are worth the most points in the game and they are going to decrease fast over the course of the game. But then you're also trying to think about, like I said, these orange pieces that are, you've got a piece that scores 8, a piece that scores 7, and a piece that scores 6 on various different types of enclosure, which are also, there's only one of each of those pieces, whereas the other ones, which are the white pieces, are enclosures where they decrease in value over time. So you've got a stack of them, and they'll start off by being more valuable and will decrease over time. What is interesting about this game, though, and it's a really easy concept to understand, is you can only place a piece that you've taken in a previous round. So how do you get pieces? You have to place it on your empty park in certain spaces. So, for example, you've got a green wheelbarrow icon that is displayed on your empty park. You have a white truck. You have an orange truck. And you've got a group of people that are on there. Like one square will just have a bunch of people on it. The idea is each of them allow you to take different pieces. So a green piece will allow you to take a food stand or a park or something like that, and that will go into your hand of stuff to be able to play on your next turn. If you cover one of the white trucks, like say you get one of the white animal enclosures, orange pieces are the valuable ones to get the kind of like the, what's the right word? The exclusive bits, I suppose, the ones that there's only one piece of. There's also a pit that's going to be on each card piece as well, each park piece as well. The pit cannot have a piece placed over it. That is where your bear statue is going to be once you've filled out your park. The space with people on is going to allow you to expand your park. So you start off with one empty park space on it with a number of squares on it that you're going to be placing your pieces onto. When you cover the person, you have a stack of more empty park pieces, which you'll then take and attach to your park until eventually you've got a 4x4 grid. Or however you want to do it. You can have it in a line or something like that. So really, it's a game of prioritization and trying to figure out what's best to do. Because, of course, when you place a piece, you may be covering multiple different icons. So it might be, I'm going to place a straight piece between these 3 blocks here. Place it on there. Hey, I covered a green wheelbarrow and a white truck on there. So you get to choose which green piece you're going to take, which one of the food stands and toilets and places like that you're going to take. And you'll also take a white piece. So when it comes round to your next turn, you've got 2 pieces to choose from. Which one am I going to place right now? That's up to me. You can get caught out, though, in the game. If you end up only holding one piece in your hand, and the only space you've currently got on your park is an empty space with no icon on it or something like that, or you just really want to get a bear statue, say, and it's the last space on your board, and you've got a little toilet piece that you're going to place, which is just like a 1 square piece. So you put that down on there, but when it comes around to your turn again, all of a sudden you've got no pieces in your hand anymore, so you have to skip a turn, and you're allowed to take one of the green pieces basically after that. So you can end up having to force yourself not to place a piece on a turn, which, like I say, in a game of prioritization, that's a disaster getting to that. So you're not just thinking about how you can fill up this space quickly, but also how can I get pieces into my hand to be able to play for the next turn. So it's a really neat puzzle. I've probably made it sound way more complicated than it actually is. It's really simple. Like, I will say right now, I've played simple games with my parents before, and they've confused the hell out of them. Sagrada was one of them. They really did not get Sagrada at all. They were still confused even by the time we finished playing. I think I mentioned that actually on this podcast before. They picked up Baron Park like by a couple of turns in. They knew what they were doing, and they were just playing. It was great. Like, there's very few games that I get to do that with my parents, although I do think they would have picked up Flamme Rouge quite quick as well.
Yeah, I would say Flamme Rouge is very first time playing friendly, I would say.
Yeah, I would say so as well. But yeah, like, I can't recommend this game enough again. It's another one that's quite high up on the Board Game Geek ranking list. There's a lot of these Tetris style games out there now. Like probably the most popular one is Feast for Odin, which I know we've seen in Toyment a few times,
Oh
and
man,
we've been
it
thinking,
looks yeah.
man, yeah, could just do that. The designer of that board game, oh God, what is his name? It's gone out of my head now. I think it's Uwe Rosenberg. He makes pretty much exclusively these Tetris style based games now, or at least he makes an awful lot of them at this point. But Baron Park is a it's not just a good Tetris style game, it's also a really good game to get people to play, like, and bring them into the hobby. And it's got cool bears on it as well. Like, you want
Who
to
doesn't like bears?
make a little panda enclosure, go ahead and do it. Fancy
Do it.
koalas instead, do that as well, even though they're not entirely bears. Brown
Yeah,
bear,
screw it.
yeah, yeah.
Bears in. All bears. There
If
is no bad bear.
if you want to make a park completely made up of food stands and toilets, you can do that too. You're gonna lose, but you can do that too.
Yay, capitalism.
The choice is yours. It's great. I really enjoy it. Wonderful game. Right, only got one thing on what we've been playing left this week.
Oh, yes.
So I've played one new game, and that is Railroad Inc. Challenge. Um, you've played Railroad Inc. before, right?
I have. Again, a nice simple kind of. It is the one where you just have like the little pen
Yep.
and kind of draw your railroad
So
with
it's
like the
a
pieces.
yeah, it's a roll and write game.
Yep.
Simply, all you've got is four white dice that you roll. It depicts four different tracks on there. It could either be a rail track or it could be a highway. Uh, you have like these square blocks that act as stations as well, and you simply just have to connect up your railways and highways in a way that they fit. And the
Yeah.
goal is to try to connect as many of the exits that are on your little thing. So you've got a little gridded map almost. And the idea is there's a number of exits pointed on the map, kind of like designated by green arrows, and they will either be exits for highways or for train stations. And you have to link up as many of those as possible, and you score points for the largest net. Well, sorry, you add up all of your networks. So the idea is if you can, I think there's 12 different exits on there. If you can connect up all 12 exits by the end of the game, you get a massive point score. It gets a bit less. As long as you've connected two exits together, you're going to score points for each individual network that you've got on there. You also then get points for your longest railway. You get points for your longest highway. There's kind of like a middle section as well, where the more pieces you've managed to draw in that central bit, the more points you get for that as well. And then you
Yeah, yeah.
had some of the expansions as well that do some really cool stuff with it, but I'll get to that later. That's Railroad Inc. What does Railroad Inc. Challenge do differently? It's made it a bit more complicated. You can't really mix these with the original sets. So, Blazing Red and Deep Blue Edition are kind of their own little thing. And then Shining Yellow is the one I don't have. And Lush Green, they're the two that will combine together, and you can use them. The reason why you can't combine them is because there's a lot of new mechanics in the new ones. If you've played Railroad Inc. before and you open this up, the first thing you're probably going to notice is there are loads of little building icons on the map now, and the idea is that if you draw any kind of trackway, whether it be a highway or whether it be a railway, and you go over a factory space, you can actually use one of your dice faces twice rather than once. So you can use those tactically on a turn where you get a particularly useful piece. If you draw on a factory, you get to use that piece twice. The universities, they have a kind of interesting ability. So once you've marked off your third university that you've drawn some sort of track in, there are these special pieces at the top of the board that you can use 3 times over the course of the game usually, and you cross them off. You can use each one of those pieces only once, so you can kind of draw like these special tiles which you may need to actually connect up. Maybe some of the more difficult thread combinations that you've drawn previously, and just help you do that a little bit better. So you can use one of those per turn. Hang on, I've actually got it here. So
Show us the
can you see that?
goods.
So yeah, I'm talking
Yeah.
about these ones along the top here. Those ones you can use once per turn. You can use 3 of them over the course of the entire game. And like I say, they just help you thread some of your other tracks together a bit better. What the universities do is they allow you to take one more free of charge. And also, you're even allowed to double up on one you've used. So usually you have to cross them off on that list, and then you can't use that particular piece again. However, like I say, with the universities, you can actually duplicate that. So that's kind of a cool ability. The next one is you may see a little village icon on some of the spaces as well. And they will only activate if you draw a station in them. So one of the black blocks in them, if you've got one of those pieces, then they give you a bonus point score at the end of the game. So that's made things a little more... it gives you a little bit more to think about when you're playing Railroad Inc. That's not all. The dice faces have actually changed as well. So the dice that you have in the original Railroad Inc. are not the same dice that you have in Railroad Inc. Challenge. They actually have a few different faces to them with different types of track on them. Some of them are going to hinder you a bit more, although in the right situation it can actually help you out. So whereas in Railroad Inc., almost all the pieces you had tracks which led off then into other spaces. There is a dice face in Railroad Inc. Challenge where it's a dead end. So you draw what remaining track is left and it just hits a station that doesn't go off in any other direction. This is bad because if the thing you have to remember is you have to draw every single dice face that's been rolled. So you can't say, I don't want to use that one. So if all you have, for example, is one railroad track and you've been working on that railroad track and you're going to make it really long, goddammit, it can screw you because at the end of it, you have to draw it and it's a stop. So that long railroad you were planning on building, you got to stop it right there. But where it is helpful is at the end of the game, any tracks which don't either head out and exit or don't manage to make it to the edge of the map, any of those count as a badly built railway at the end of the game. And for every space you have that isn't connected to anything, you get a -1 point score at the end. So if things are starting to look particularly hairy, you can actually use that to close off a network and avoid getting a -1 point at the end. So it's not all bad. There are also a couple other faces on there that are a little bit trickier than the first original Railroad Inc. as well, so it's worth mentioning that as well. And it doesn't end there either, because also it's introduced this concept of goals as well. So at the beginning of the game, you'll draw 3 cards from this deck. They are goals for people to try to achieve over the course of the game. So it might be something like build into a loop, or build a network with 5 stations in it, or something like that. And the idea is whoever gets there first is going to get a big point score bonus, and then everyone who completes it in subsequent turns after that get a ever decreasing amount of points. So again, it gives you other things to aim for when you're building your railways. You may not just want to be looking at connecting up as well as you can. You may be aiming for these goals as well. And I'm pretty sure that the picture that is being painted here when I'm explaining this is Railroad Inc. Challenge is, funnily enough, more challenging. Sorry, were you trying to talk then? I thought you might have been... Yeah, I think you might have been muted.
It's because I was drinking.
Oh, okay, fair enough. But yeah, it's definitely a step up from Railroad Inc., which, to be honest, Railroad Inc., I have said before, is one of those games which I would play to relax and stuff like that. I would play it by myself. It's just a nice little time, like drawing little railways and highways and stuff like that. This is a lot heavier. It also has introduced new rules for if you're going to play solo. So when you're playing a solo game now, the 3 cards you draw as your goals for the game, they have to be. There were 4 points if they're completed in the round that they represent. So, like the first card that you drew, that goal, if it's completed by round three, in other words, your third dice roll, I should probably add, then it's worth 4 points. If you complete it any time after that, it's only worth 1 point. Your second card has to be completed by round four, and your third card that you drew has to be completed by round five. So it adds a bit of urgency to it, but otherwise you just add it all together and see how good a score you can get. They have also introduced a new way of playing the game, which is drafting dice. So if you've got multiple sets, the idea is that you take 8 dice together, you roll them all, and then you go around the table and everyone takes 2 dice from there, and they're the ones that they're going to draw. And the order at which you get to draw dice like varies from round to round. So it's a way of making it more competitive, because one of the things about Railroad Inc. is if everyone knows what they're doing, everyone will probably end up drawing a very similar thing all the time, because you're working off the same resources, the same 4 dice that are on there, and you're all drawing up at the same time. This changes it up. Everyone's drawing something different, and everyone's choosing what they will draw and leaving the other options to other people around the table. So it's a really cool way of changing up the game that way. Finally, before I move on, I have to talk about the expansions for it, because anyone who's played Railroad Inc. before knows that every individual set comes with its own mini expansions in them. So they usually come with a set of 4 dice, and you'll use 2 of those 4 dice depending on which expansion you decide to use. So each one comes with 2 expansions. So like for example, with the Deep Blue edition, you had Rivers, which was kind of just an extra, like the railways and highways. You also could build a river, the longest river that you've made over the course of one game, you score points for. And then it also had lakes, which had a really interesting concept where any railway that was built into a lake could then be continued on the opposite side of that lake, so you could connect up all your networks a bit easier, which was a really cool little feature. And you also scored points for the way that you built the lakes as well. The Blazing Red had a couple of really interesting expansions for it. It had a volcano expansion where lava was filling the map, basically, because every time you rolled lava, you had the choice of either you had to attach it to a pre-existing lava lake, or you could just make a new volcano, and then you have the choice between which 2 lakes you expand out, and they would compromise where you can build railways and stuff like that. But the other expansion that was in the Blazing Red one was Meteors, which could come down and destroy the tracks you've already built, but you could mine minerals from them and gain an extra point. So that was a really fun little expansion. From the Lush Green edition that I've got, you've got forests, which are simply the largest forest that you've built orthogonally on your map. Scores you 2 points per forest space. You could also then have a second forest, which you can nominate as well, but they only score 1 point per forest space that you've made. Any other forests on there don't score anything. You can literally only score 2 of them out of all the ones you've made. So you're drawing little trees on the map and stuff, which is kind of neat. But the other one was Trails, which was a bit more difficult, and I am really, really bad at. The idea is that you're building trails around, hiking trails basically, around the various pieces that you're placing down. They connect up railway stations, and they actually score an extra network. So where you've got your scoring track at the top of your board, which tells you how many exits that you've used, you'd score points for, you'd use that for connecting up your stations as well. And in the game that I played using the trails, I only managed to roll 3 stations over the course of the entire game, and I could only link up one of them, which was worth a grand total of 0 points. So my experience with that was not so great. But it was still really enjoyable. I'm just bad at it, I should probably say. The Shining Yellow edition, I had a look up, and the 2 expansions you actually get with that are There is a cactus expansion, which has
Oh my
honestly,
god.
it looks really cool. The idea is that you draw cactuses on your map, and you have to try to connect them to oasis, like adjacently, because if you roll a sun at one point, that indicates that the weather is too hot, and any cactuses not connected to an oasis die, and
Wow.
you have to rub them off your map. And the idea is, again, you're getting points at the end of the game for the various populations of cactus that you have. And the other one I think was a cliff, which I couldn't quite understand too much. It's something to do with you're given a certain number of bridge points at the beginning of the game, and the cliffs, when they make kind of like when they when you've got two different sides of the cliff, you have to start spending bridge points to connect your railways and highways together across it, and you've got like a limited number of them over the course of the game. That one sounds a bit more complicated. I'm not quite sure how it works. But before we move on and bring close to what we've been playing, I do want to mention that there's actually going to be a load of mini expansions released for Railroad Inc. soon. It's good. It's being done a little bit differently. You're literally just going to be buying new dice for them, and these dice are
That's quite cool.
highly themed. So, like, there's an arcade one I think I saw that's coming out. There's an electric one or something like that, and of course there's a Cthulhu one that they've got in the works as well.
Obviously.
I think there's about 8 of these mini expansions in the works, and they just cost a few quid each. And it gives you an extra expansion to be able to play around with at this point. So
That's a good thing in a way, just to kind of like make it a little bit of a cheaper expansion process rather than keep buying like a full box set every time.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, so there's a lot of legs left in Railroad Inc. yet, and it's still a game that I really enjoy. And since I got that box, I've been playing it a lot. So yeah, fully recommend it. Okay,
More Roadward Inc.
and that brings a close to what we've been playing. How would you like some news, Daryl?
Do you know what? I like my news with a side of deep fried news.
Then deep fried news it is. Let's do it.
Woo!
Okay, so I'm going to leave you to talk about the first one. It's to do with a Kickstarter for Actually. And I don't know too much
Right.
about this, so take it away,
Okay,
Daryl.
so I briefly have been watching a few of these little clips. I got a email from, I think the name is Wiggles 3D, or something like that. Is it Wiggles 3D? Yeah, Wiggles 3D, and they're the ones that created the 5-minute mystery dungeon, 5-minute mystery games, basically. So, because I subscribe to them, and I do actually quite enjoy their games. They're very fun, kind of interesting games.
Yeah, the ones we played were
They're doing-
really neat, so...
Yeah, 100%. They're just like quick and easy. So they're doing a collab with College Humor, which I don't know if anyone ever sort of. I don't know where they arrived from originally, but I remember originally seeing the Batman videos. I don't know if you ever saw them, where it's basically one guy like just kept playing, doing scenes out of like the Dark Knight trilogy, the Christian Bale one, and just being really weird, but it worked really funny. And then I started watching other ones like. There was one where like is it Betty Banner was trying to get Bruce Banner to turn into the Hulk to have coitus with him, because she wanted to know if a certain part of him also gets enlarged. And it was such a funny scene because she was just punching him, hitting him, but like doing really stupid things to try and get him enraged. And I distinctly remember at the end of it him going, "It's me, the Hulk," and then she sort of looked down at him and was like, "Oh man, really?" Like kind of thing. It was very funny. So they're like a kind of geeky kind of college humor. There's some really good videos, to be fair. Can check out. Anyway, this is all based on a game show they do called Actually, where essentially they get the nerdiest people to correct nerd statements. So
Oh, God.
anything from sci-fi to gaming to comic books to board games, fan fan-related questions. Okay, to the point where it's that you have to buzz in and go, actually. So the statements have to be kind of, so the way you kind of get the points on it essentially are by correcting either a kind of cleverly mispronounced thing or a fact that isn't completely and utterly true or slightly different. So some of the ones I saw a minute ago when I was clicking through was one of them. They were talking about role-playing games, and they were saying about there was different settings, and it was like Cyberpunk, Dungeons and Dragons, something else in the darkness, and then something called GURPS. No idea what that is.
It's an RPG.
Right, so someone then goes, actually, I think you'll find, and then
actually, I think you'll find it's an RPG.
Yeah, and kind of went into that, and then they got points for it because they got it right. But I mean, like I say, check it out. There's some really weird little kind of clips of it. But to be honest with you, they did one on Cowboy Bebop as well. Like,
that's
they
neat.
had to, yeah, it was something like, and two young. It's basically like the premise of Cowboy Bebop, and then said, and like with 2 or 3 young characters. And then one of them went, actually, I think you'll find that she was the oldest one because she was cryogenically frozen. And that was a point because technically she was older than the other ones because she was in cryo. So it's just stuff like that. You just got to kind of find the nerdiest point to kind of... There's not a lot on the game at the moment. This is based purely on the actual series itself. But all I've been sent is it's coming on the 18th. They're going live on the 18th at noon Eastern time. Yeah, so it's basically in Unaptually you're given false statements about the topics you know and love, and it's up to you to figure out what's wrong with while starting with a pretentious actually, and even if you know nothing about Sailor Moon or Star Wars, you'll find yourself making wild guesses, stumbling into answers, and having laughs along the way. To be honest with you, I could see it being a new kind of party game type style system. Again, like kind of it feels like it could work with the whole. Kind of similar to like Cards Against Humanity, where you're like picking different blind categories kind of thing and trying to sort of work them. I don't know if it might again lose its appeal eventually, but I assume they would do expansions or potentially app based in a way, because that would be the most easiest way to kind of keep updating content or make your own. I don't know, but I like to see it when it kind of goes live. We've got a couple more days till it actually comes up here. Yeah, I mean, like I say, the last couple of things I've got from them, they were really good. So hopefully this one's just as good as well.
So essentially, it's a game that is encouraging people to be more like comic book guy from The Simpsons.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah. It, like I say, the TV show, you can't help but kind of, I don't know, want to hate them a little bit, but I think maybe that's kind of the appeal in a way. I don't know, but there was a nice little side thing where apparently people tweet in stuff and then they go through it, which is quite funny. So like the guy had tweeted in, actually, I think you'll find that something was this, and you've got it wrong, kind of thing. So like the community as itself is kind of also getting involved in it, which is quite a nice little thing, I guess, that you can kind of get like a big community kind of style thing out of it. It doesn't look like, and it sounds really stupid, it doesn't look like it's massive.
Right.
The views on stuff, it's all right. Don't get me wrong. The views are in, like massive views, but they're not massive views. So I feel like this is more of a kind of niche thing in a way, a little bit. We're still talking in like the 100,000 kind of views and stuff like that. But I feel like there's probably it's probably more only nerds really appreciate this stuff because it's more of a fun thing to kind of poke fun at each other without it being too aggressive in a way.
Yeah.
But I mean. Just check it out. I mean, if you get a chance, just watch a couple of clips. You'll either love it or hate it. I think it's got a very Marmite kind of appeal to it, but hopefully the game will be quite interesting. Also, that actually thing is just great, but at the same time, it's really funny.
Do you know what? First of all, I'm not a big anime guy, but you're talking about Cowboy Bebop. That is one of the few animes that I still love. I really want to watch that again now. But secondly, this isn't something that I've pre-prepared for news. What you've just said has kind of reminded me of something. I'm not 100% sure whether this game is actually out yet, but I think if it's not out yet, it's coming out soon. Have you seen the Anchorman game?
What?
that's in the works. Yeah, there is
What?
there is an Anchorman board game in the works, and it's another kind of party game kind of style thing. The idea is that you've got all these, you've got like hundreds of these punch out kind of
Oh,
magnetic pieces, and the idea is that everyone has a script at the beginning of it. And the idea is
amazing.
everyone's picking out words from it and slapping it onto the. It's acting as a teleprompter, so you're
Yeah,
slapping
yeah, yeah.
words onto this script, and then you
So
line them
amazing.
up in this whole thing. And the idea is that one person plays the news anchor per round, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
you turn the teleprompter around to them, and they have to start reading the teleprompter, and they're not allowed to laugh or hesitate at all.
That's
And
funny.
you basically call them out on it. They actually say in that there's no real competition in this game. This is just a bit of fun. But the idea is
Yeah,
when
yeah,
they
yeah.
get to the end of the first script, they've got it set up so that you lift out the first player's script, and then it moves straight onto the second player's script, and they
That's
get
so good.
they get points for making the news anchor crack, basically, if they've managed to string together a sentence that's just going to make them laugh. It
Yeah, yeah.
literally is a game that is designed to make your friends laugh, pretty much. Don't
So
really.
I
Uh,
love the fact. Sorry, I've just quickly looked at it. I love the fact that one of the tiers comes with Sex Panther
Timer.
timers, like egg
Yeah,
timer type things.
yeah,
That's so cool.
yeah. It is very cool. Like I say, I don't think it's out yet, but I think it's on its
No, I
way.
think yeah, that's very funny.
I didn't add it to this news, but there we go. That's a little extra for you.
That's a
Um,
snippet of an extra.
it
So funny.
really is. But something that, again, is not on Kickstarter just yet, but should be soon, is Robot Quest Arena. This just looks, again, like a really neat family weight kind of game. It's got these really big, chunky robot miniatures that are really, really cool. The ones I've seen are very similar to the picture that you'll see on screen right now, but I don't think somehow that they're going to become pre-painted. I think they're probably going to be kind of like a standard grey plastic. Could be wrong about that, but all the pictures I've seen of this so far all involve these coloured miniatures, basically. So, what is Robot Quest Arena? It's basically Robot Wars. So, yep, it's a deck building game.
Okay.
So you kind of start off with a number of basic weapons in your hand and a ton of battery. The idea is that, like any other deck building game, you shuffle them together and you draw so many of them. Then you've got the option of either spending some of those cards in order to buy something from the face up kind of tableau of cards that you've got, spending some of them in order to take them, and then using what's left to be able to take actions on the board. The thing that is really cool about this is the cards that you use to buy other cards are the cards you use for movement across the board as well. So
Ooh,
you
okay.
really have to think about, do I want to move or do I want to expand my arsenal right now and get some better stuff in there do I want to buy a boomerang, for example, right now and put that in my deck rather than moving? So you're left with this whole situation where you have that choice to make. Um, Again, it's not winner is the last one standing. It's simply a case of scoring points. So if you manage to successfully blow up one of your friends, they simply go back to their start space and they get their turn as normal, and you get points for them. Again, it has a good way of balancing things as well, because the idea is that the cubes you use for health, they are all passed to the player that took that health off of you, and they count as points towards the end of the game. The very last cube that's on there is the kill cube. That's worth 2 points rather than one.
Kill cube.
So yeah, so
So good.
you do get a bonus for being the person who actually destroys another player, but the points are kind of shared over the table. There's not honestly a lot more that I can say about this game. I can talk about it fairly confidently because I actually saw a shut up and sit down preview video of
Yeah, yeah,
them
yeah.
actually playing this, and it really is that simple. But the artwork is very bright and colourful, looks amazing, and it's going to be a rare deck building game that's going to be easy to pick up. I find deck building games are really difficult to teach to people that don't know what they are. I know, like you were saying about the Lord of the Rings Journeys from Middle Earth. I know that's not a deck building game, but usually when you've got cards,
It kind of adds to the level of training, yeah.
it,
Well,
it
not training, learning.
yeah, it requires a degree of people understanding what everything written on the cards is. But
Yeah.
this one looks as if it's really simplified. Like, say, your cards which have batteries on them, they're just used to either buy cards or move your character, and that's it. And then you just have to worry about what each of the weapons do on their turn. And it's just a simple case of you'll want to use every weapon you can on your turn or something like that, and see what happens, I suppose. I mean, yeah, that's Robot Quest Arena. Haven't got a link to post in the description right now because the Kickstarter hasn't actually launched just yet. But yeah, Robot Quest Arena. So,
Looks good.
it does. I really love the look of it. So, we have one new story left for you here, and it involves the UK Game Expo, which is
What?
going to run as normal, and tickets are now on sale. Now, if you're from another part of the world and you're watching this, by the time this podcast comes out, we will be about 5 days into being able to meet up with people indoors again. So
Still can't lick each other's dice.
no, you can
Not yet.
you can hang out indoors with up to 5 other people, or a larger number as long as it's only divided between 2 households. So all of a sudden, board gaming is possible again, which is
It is
great.
possible.
And by the time that the UK Game Expo happens, large crowds are supposedly going to be able to get back together again, because this is running from, oh God, I had it written down a minute ago, from the 30th of July to the
30th.
1st of August. So it's carrying on with a 3-day event as normal. Like I say, tickets are already on sale. You can go over to www.ukgameexpo.co.uk and you can order your tickets from there. But they haven't made it very clear on their website as to what measures are being taken from it. Like, the way I can see it, this is just going to run as normal. And they're running with this hashtag of play with confidence, and then not listing on the website any of the precautions
What
that
that
they're going to
means.
be setting up, which, to be honest, you could make the argument that this is still, what, 3 months away? 3, 4 months away, so
Yeah.
things could easily change. So perhaps they don't want to release too much information just yet. So there is 100% that. But at the same time, if people are able to buy tickets right now, it has to be made really clear what
Going.
preventions are being put in place. So from what I can see from the front page that you get to, there is no information available at all. Literally, just to quote the one thing I can find on the front page here, it says, with the levels of COVID continuing to fall, high levels of vaccination uptake, and a number of additional safety protocols in place, we are confident we can run a safe live show. The problem is they're not actually telling us what those safety protocols they've put in place actually are, which I think is a bit problematic. A quick journey over to Twitter, though, I was able to see that people are asking questions on there and they are answering them. I think I saw something about you're going to, for each day you go in, you're going to have to provide a test to actually show that you're turning up negative at the moment, before you're allowed entry into the arena. Basically, it's done at the Birmingham NEC. I feel like that's information that they should be putting on their front page, because there's probably a lot of people out there that aren't aware of this right now.
Yeah, I would say I think this is the problem. Like I was saying to you, it's not without further investigation. Which, to be honest with you, I don't feel like you should have to go out of your way as a customer, if you will, or consumer, or whatever, to try and find the information that should be kind of put out there very easily. Because I know we were saying about how we weren't sure if we would go this year, and I still won't think. Well, we aren't going this year.
It's a flat no
But
from me, definitely.
yeah, I just don't think. I don't think even if say everyone is jabbed up and it's dormant for whatever reason, I don't think it's kind of a without knowing the procedures that have gone into place. Like other than all right, yeah, getting tested, that's great, but like so many components of that are like touching stuff, um, demos, bring and buy, just general merchandise. You think of how many people just touch something and then potentially just put it down. Say you're busy with another person, you didn't see that person doing, like going through your wares or whatever like that. I mean, then you've got to then try and think, well, if everyone's touched it, and then you can't spray everything, you can't wipe everything down because a lot of it's going to get, especially the cardboard things, going to get soggy, and it's just kind of things like that, isn't it? So it's like it's weird that they don't put up as much information. I'd want to be bombarded with information to feel safe. Like I get this play with confidence thing. I get that's like a kind of slogan they're going with, but about backing that up with any kind of real information as opposed to kind of just going play with confidence. I don't feel confident because I'm going to be potentially touching things that other people have touched. All right, the demo tables can probably spray stuff down and they can like limit how many people, but then are they limiting how many people are in there? Like, are they spacing it out? What's the queue systems going to be like? Are you looking at more waiting time to see stuff in auditoriums? Are they going to do more than one showing of each thing? Is it half capacity? Is it full capacity? It's the stuff like that, isn't it? You don't know. And again, obviously, by that time, we may be out of a lot of the restrictions. So perhaps, maybe that's great. But then perhaps we could be going back into restrictions depending on the climate. So it's kind of a case of they need to show what they're doing either way to kind of make you feel that paying the money is worth getting a full experience rather than paying maybe to get a limited experience, but knowing that you're getting the limited experience. That's the weird thing.
I think this is the problem. A lot of the issues that you've brought up there, there are ways around them, and we don't know how much level of interaction you're going to be able to have with everything. And I think this is why it's important that whatever safety protocols they've got in place, they kind of have to make people aware now, not
so you can
now
plan.
now that tickets are available. Now is the time to be making people aware of this. And yes, they are answering the questions on Twitter, and I have to commend the fact that they are getting back to people quickly when they are asked these questions, but they need to transfer this information to the front of their page. That's literally the thing that I am asking them to do right now is whatever safety protocols you've got, people need to know before they buy a ticket. It's the last thing you want is, and let me tell you, it's not just for the peace of mind of people who perhaps are considering to buy a ticket right now, but you have to think of it from the other side as well, and the people that are going to say, oh, well, I bought my ticket before you let us know all this, so I feel like I have the right to touch all this stuff. And those people are out there, and they are going to come at them. Like,
and it's the other thing is as well. It's like I'd want to know as a like a potential stall. What precautions would I have to take? So would I have to do stuff differently? Do I have to put sanitizer at the front of my stall? You know, like what am I doing? Like I know if you get there and they turn out that all right, so masks are probably a given, right? That's fine. But say you get there and they're like, oh, you need to bring gloves, but you didn't bring gloves because you didn't know that until the day you got there, and then because everyone's bought gloves, there are no gloves.
Yeah.
You know, for whatever reason. So like, how does that factor in? I know that's not probably, well, you never know, but do you know what I mean? It's like little things like that, like without planning ahead, or will I need to bring sanitizer because there's not enough sanitizing stations, or what's the deal with eating? Are we allowed to eat inside, or do we have to go outside? Or it's going to be these kind of things that you'd want to know prior to going there, so you can. I mean, all right, we've got a couple of months to plan ahead. Like, say we were going, I'd want to know in advance. Do we need to start bringing lunches? Are we going to have food there? What kind of like cleaning stuff do we have to bring? Can we just sit down at a table? Do we have to book a table? Like those little bits where they were playing. When we went last time, we just sat down, we started playing.
Yeah.
Is that going to be a thing? Do we have to wait? Do we have to queue? Do we have to slot? Like, demo-wise, if you want to play a demo, do you have to book a demo? Like, rather than just turn up, play the game, do you have to book a slot, go at the start of the day and go, oh, I'd like to book a play test of, I don't know, Lord of the Rings.
I mean,
crossover or something. I don't know.
I mean, the fact that the information isn't there on the, or at least the information might be there, but it's not very easily accessible right now. I
Yeah.
don't even know whether this is running at full capacity, and if it's running at
No,
full
exactly.
capacity like we've seen it, then I would not be interested in going. Like
No.
that genuinely, like, if nothing else was an issue at all, and I just needed to know that, I would still be put off right now, going there unless I know what kind of capacity they're running at.
Yep.
Is it going to be like when we've gone before? Because I honestly, like, I do want to say right now, they put on a really good show,
Oh,
and
100%. It's
it's
amazing usually.
it's a great experience, and I hope everyone who likes board games gets a chance to go to the UK Game Expo at some point. But this year, it's just, yeah. I'm like we said, we're not going to be going this year, but
No, we're not. No.
I mean,
But
to
it's
be
just a
honest,
case
even
of
if they
whether
let
or
us
not.
know, all the safety protocols, it feels like next year is the time. This year, just no, just can't do it this year.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that is all of our news. So all there is to do now is answer our big topic.
No more news.
And our big topic this time around is which games are you most looking forward to playing now things are opening up. So, as soon as everyone in my household is comfortable, I'm going to start running board game nights again. Whether it's a case of everyone who comes around has to wear a mask and there'll be hand sanitizer
Sanitizing
there.
stations.
Yes, a sanitizing station on the table. Um, I've yet to figure all that out, but I definitely do plan on starting up board gaming again soon. And if people in my household aren't comfortable with it, then a lot of places like our local gaming centre in Toyman is starting to offer tables again for people to go and play. So I'll definitely be taking advantage of that and going over and playing a few games. But which ones have been sitting around? Not necessarily new games, but which games have you been looking at and thinking, man, I can't wait to play that?
Okay, so I'm gonna run through. I don't know. I could go on for hours here. I'm gonna run through a couple of ones that have come to mind while we've been talking. Um, so it's gonna be Unmatched.
Yes,
I want
that'll
to
be
get
on
in. I
my
want to get
list.
in on that. I want to mix and match all the stuff. I want to find out what's really good. I want to watch that go. I mean, I'd love to start maybe a league,
Yeah.
like not like a you know what I mean like just a miniaturized league, which would be quite nice. Dice Throne. I want to get on that again. I want to play some more of that, like try out more combos. Basically, I'm using all your stuff here. I want to play some more of the things because again, it's one of those games that every time I see it, I'm like, oh Jesus, man, could I get that? Should I get that? And you know, when you're just like, ugh. Steve's got most of it, so we could use it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
The Game of Thrones miniatures game, I kind of want to go again with.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's we've been talking about miniature games, and I know one of our mates, Matt, he's got rid of a lot of his Warhammer stuff. He just doesn't play it anymore and just doesn't really bother with it. And I know we were talking about sort of like Legion, obviously, but like I think it was because we were talking about it the other day, like on the last podcast, and I just kind of felt like I really want to get back into it and just play a bit more of it and try some more. Because I know you've got a lot more kind of tricksy kind of characters, and I would like to sort of see how they fare against maybe both side of things and just play it 'cause it's a nice little easy miniatures game, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, get my free folk out again. I mean, the Greyjoy
Yeah,
set
exactly.
got released recently and they look
I
awesome.
know. That's the thing. Like I won't. I already have technically two armies because I got the core set, and what I've done is I bought figures that kind of integrate with both of them, so I haven't bought anything like say more Lannister or more Stark. I bought neutral characters because in my mind I was like I never really knew what I normally it would have said I would have said Stark
Yeah,
like easily, but then at the same time I kind of love the Lannister side of things, so it's like I didn't want to commit to one or the other, so I thought I'd buy a bit of everything sort of in between to kind of filter in, and it does work that way that you can kind of have mainly the Boltons at the time. You can put the Boltons into both,
Yeah.
easily, and it works in a way that, say, I know you have those like weird little archers. I now can use little archers as well, so it's a nice little thing to sort of throw in some ranged aspects to it just to see how it works. Nothing overpowered, but it's just a nice little object. But this is the thing: when they brought out those other ones, like the Baratheon, the Dothraki, I was a bit upset with, and didn't really see the point of them, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But the Greyjoys at the moment, when we were looking through them after the last podcast, there is some cool stuff on there. But again, it's a bit of a yeah.
I think with me, just quickly, just before we move on from that, I think with me, with the Song of Ice and Fire tabletop game, obviously I'm playing with the free folk, and free folk can't have mercenaries. They can't add outside factions into their army. That's what makes me want to give a second army a try, just because I can't buy those extra figures, and I've looked at like Baratheons and Greyjoy are the two that I'm
Baratheons are
looking
very
at and
cool.
thinking, yeah, they're the two that I really like the look of.
Yeah, I think if we were to get into it a lot more, I feel like if you could get them on the cheap, I would definitely say get one of those, because I'm not fussed about the Night's Watch. Do you know what I mean? Like they look cool, but they're not. You know,
Yeah,
I think because, but then again, the free folk have some nice units, like those kind of changing ones. The giants are really cool, so you have got like some really cool options. I think it's just like it's a shame, like you say, there's been quite a few neutral mercenary groups. I think you can include quite a few of them in different ones, but I don't know.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's other little games as well I wouldn't mind playing. Like I want to kind of play a bit more of like Infinity with you, go through that.
That'd be cool.
Arkham Horror, like again,
We've been
set
talking
down and
about
actually
that.
have like have a proper game of that. Yeah, just you know what? There's a hell of a lot actually. There's absolutely a hell of a lot. Like I could see one of the ones again we'd need to kind of get. I want to go back to playing Blackstone Fortress. I want to kind of finish that out. I would like to finish or at least get more involved in our what's it called, man? What's the house one? Betrayal at House on the Hill.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but the legacy game we were doing, because that was starting to become really like neat, and
Yeah.
there was some really cool aspects. That was really cool. I'd like to smash that again.
The thing is
Loads.
like the thing with Betrayal Legacy is we'd added in a load of rules, and it's kind of
Yeah.
like we're going to have to try and refamiliarize ourselves with all that, because
Well, that's the thing.
the
Yeah.
basic Betrayal rules are fine, but there's
Yeah.
all sorts added in that we're going to have
Was
to remind ourselves of.
We had that weird one where we had to touch the thing, the item. There was an
We
item,
had to
wasn't it? We
bring
had
it
to
out
touch
of the
it.
box at the beginning of the game, and we could only
Yeah,
touch
and
the edge or something.
you only touched the edge,
Yeah,
and did we have to say something to it, like acknowledge its existence? We made up a really
yeah,
weird rule, and it became gospel, and you were like, right, okay,
yeah.
remember that. What about you?
So I've been talking about, like, to be honest, a lot of the ones you mentioned there, I am very much on board with. Like the Arkham Horror card game is one of the ones I really
Yeah,
want to try and do,
yeah, with
just
double
in
pin.
person. Just to go back to one we've mentioned on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, we played Oceans digitally, and I
Oh, okay,
think
yeah,
that's going to be so much better in person. Like, we had fun with it there, but I think everything's just going to run a lot more smoother playing that in person.
yeah.
I have got a whole bunch of games. Like, I tried playing through a lot of the games in the top Board Game Geek
Yeah.
list, and a load of them I want to try. So games like Paladins of the West Kingdom, I want to give a try. Tzolk'in, you know, that game with the massive gears on the board.
Yes,
Uh,
I'd love to play that. That looks
yeah,
really good.
I really want to get that to the table sometime soon. Um, to be honest, the ones that I'm thinking, the ones which I'm familiar with that I want to play. I've always talked about playing some of those games with you guys a bit more. I've got to get you to play Mansions of Madness, just to reference something
Yeah,
we
I
played
want to play
earlier.
that.
And
I want to
Barron
play that.
Park as well. I mentioned earlier. I
Yep.
said it would come up again. I do want to play that in person with you guys and stuff. But Five Tribes is just one of my absolute favourite games, and I haven't played it with either you or Ian, and I really want to play that. Mysterium, the full fat
Yeah,
Mysterium
full
box,
fat meal.
not the Mysterium Park one, which is really good, but I really want to see how the classic
Oh,
version kind of measures up.
I tell you one that I'd like to see because of obviously where we've been playing it a hell of well, we have been playing it a hell
I
of a lot.
think you're getting to what I was
Um,
about to say.
Deception Hong Kong.
Yes, literally
Oh,
that
sorry,
is
it's
on my
Deception
list.
Murder Hong Kong.
Yeah,
Yeah, like I'd love to see how that fares. I know we said that it looks really nice in real life as well, so I'd love to kind of, I'd love to give that an actual whirl in real life, with a load of people. I think it'd be so good fun.
yeah. Orleans is another game that I want to play. Uh, Back at the beginning of actually, I can see it right there. Pitch Car. We said we really wanted to try.
Yeah,
Little kind of like flicking game that seems
yeah,
really cool.
that one, I would love to play.
Yeah, so well, I really am looking forward to like setting up a track and doing that. But I mean, there's so much that just I haven't had the opportunity to play yet. There's a really cool little card game called Oriflam, which I've been waiting on since the beginning of the first lockdown. Funnily enough,
Yeah, yeah,
Rallyman GT, which we again is
yeah.
another game we played
We
digitally
played
that
that
would
in
be
digital.
nice to play like on a table.
Mm.
In terms of a game that we're not going to be able to play anytime soon, even after the restrictions, it's going to take a little while before we can. There's a game called Mafia de Cuba, which I
Oh yeah, yeah.
really want to play. A game where you've got a little box of diamonds and you're passing it around the table, and everyone's like trying to steal from the Godfather and stuff. That's just
That's good.
looking amazing. There's just so much, and there's still stuff coming out as well that I haven't been able to get hold of yet, like Cubitos. Looks great. You know that one that I sent you
Yeah,
the
that
image
looked
of,
really
that
good.
really weird like
I
front
love the
cover with
photo of it.
the lump of cheese. Um,
Yeah. That
yeah,
looked good.
uh, Robinson Crusoe is another older game that I really want to get to the table and try that out. On Mars, I managed to get a copy of that during lockdown as well. Overly expensive Vital Lacerda game um, that I've heard might disappoint us a little bit, but I still really want to play it because the game just looks so good. Like when we had Escape Plan out, it just looks
Yeah.
just fantastic. But yeah, there's so much. There's so much. Like I've missed board gaming with people in
Yeah,
person.
humans,
Just
actual humans in real life. Yeah,
like digitally is it's not the same. And even if we can just get small groups of us together and just start playing for a few games again, I just can't wait for it. Really cannot wait.
no.
But yeah, is there anything else you really want to add to that?
Um,
Of course, there's Gloomhaven that we've been talking about forever.
yeah, Gloomhaven. Trying to think what else,
Cos-
man. There's loads.
Cosmic Encounter is another one that I know you and Ian
Yeah,
haven't played
the
that I
one that's
want to
not.
get you to the table with that as well.
Jewel was good. I'd like to play that again, and I'd like to play. Yeah, I'd like to play Cosmic Encounter Jewels. That was really, really fun.
You've at least got the
Um,
essence of what that's like now, so that's
yes,
cool.
and I think that's the thing. I think that's the coolness of it.
There's a roll and write called Cartographers that I quite liked for us all to play sometime as well. It's kind of
Trying to
cool.
think, is there anything? There's some like party esque ones like Don't Get Got, Muffin Time, um, stuff like that. But I feel like they're a little way off still in
Um,
terms of sort of.
I have a party game that I'm quite looking forward to playing actually with you guys again when we can. It's a game called Pitch Storm, and
Right.
the idea is that everyone's trying to pitch a movie.
Oh, that'd be cool.
So someone plays an executive every round, and people have these cards that they've drawn, which will consist of a character and a plot. But you can draw three cards, I think it was, from any one of those two decks, whether it be the character or the plot deck. And
Right.
then the one you didn't choose is a random card just drawn off the top and played. And then you have to pitch that movie to the executives, and you have to kind of like flesh it out. That's probably the party game that I most want to play that I've got at the moment, which I think will be kind of cool.
Yeah, that would be really good.
Oh, and Scroll, of course, which is just like
Scroll.
telestrations. So Yeah, very much looking forward to that as
I'm
well.
trying to think. Was there any? Oh, just like Letter Jam, just like Team Free. Not
Yeah,
Team Free. Is it Team Free?
Team 3, yeah, the one where
Yeah,
you've
Team
got.
Free. That's good fun. Just it's just little things that we've all played loads of. I just want to keep playing them. Go back to Keyforge. Wouldn't mind Keyforge again for a little bit. Like the
Yeah,
newer decks, try them out.
haven't seen
Um,
anything much about the Dark Tidings thing that's just come out as
no,
well.
me
So
neither. I know. I just like the we because I know we said we're going to get like one of each kind of thing. I got the Mass Mutation one. I just want to see what it's like. Play it on the game or whatever. Do you know what? I can't think of any. I mean, I can. There's loads of stuff, but off the top of my head, I can't think of anything like kind of.
I'm only picking out the key ones here. Like the list, I could probably fill like 5 sides of A4 of games that I'm looking forward to trying. So
Yeah, I think so. I think this is the thing, isn't it? There's so much now that we could possibly, and I think that's the thing.
God, the two
It,
player stuff like
I
Onitama
know.
and War Chest, and it's like I'm not a big fan of 2 player like head to head kind of games, but I made that
Yeah, yeah,
list of all the great alternatives to chess, and there's games in
yeah, yeah,
there
yeah.
that I absolutely love that I really want to play once we're back
Yeah,
together. You know,
I wouldn't mind going back to that one. The one where like it's all the different little wooden pieces. That was really cool.
Quarto,
Um, Porto, that's it. Yeah, I'd love to play that again. That was fun as.
yeah.
Um, Trying to think what else, but yeah, there's some cool stuff. Like it's just that's the thing. There's just some cool stuff out there that we've either played one or two of, and we never got. Man, Crokinole. I'd love to go back to Crokinole.
Yeah, yeah. Hell, we were talking about getting a bunch of us together to play Crokinole once all this is done and like having a little
Yeah,
Crokinole tournament. Like, man, I would still love to do that because that game is
yeah.
addictive. Just can't play it at the moment though. You cannot play it in the current environment. But
No.
you know, like I say, by the time this goes out, we'll be 5 days into being able to meet up in person again. So
Woo.
that's kind of cool. Anyway, I think that is a good place to leave it there. Please, we've just literally listed off games for the last like 10-15 minutes.
Oh,
Let us know in the comments any that you're looking forward to playing now that we can sort of start getting together with people again. If you'd like to follow us on social medias, you can find us on Twitter at Everybody Dice and at Everybody Dice Show if you want to follow us on Instagram. We've also got our Facebook on screen down there as well, facebook.com/Everybody Dice. So please do go and check that out as well. Other than that, I mean, if you've enjoyed this, please do give us a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and just let us know what you think of the video. Just let us know, please. And Daryl is tasting dice once more for all our audio listeners.
it's just exactly, guys. It's delicious. I recommend every moment of it. Don't swallow it though. Don't swallow it. Like
That would be
it's
bad.
it's like a fine wine. You swirl it first and then spit it out. You don't drink it. You just swirl and spit.
Oh god! And then you gorge on it afterwards, I suppose.
Of course, yeah. Just crush the dice and just eat them.
Anyway, thank you very much for joining us on this podcast. There should be something on screen right now. If you could give some of that a click as
Lucky
well,
people.
that would be awesome. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you again next time. Bye.